Alright everyone, welcome back. So Data Vault is not only modeling technique, it also provides entire methodology for end-to-end project cycle. So we are going to talk about different project management approaches and significance of agile methodology on Data Vault design. Since the early 70s, the waterfall methodology is the most traditional and dominant method for managing software development and BI projects. And it also separates project into distinct sequential phases, and each new phase begins only when the previous one has completed. And this method works well for clearly defined projects with a single deliverables and fixed deadline. Fundamental steps in waterfall project is, first of all, customer requirements are gathered at the beginning of the project. So it requires a long documentation and planning processes. Then we choose the technology, create the diagrams, and plan the software architecture. In implementation phase, programmers processes the requirements from the previous phases to produce actual code. Then each element is tested to ensure if it works as expected and fulfills the requirements. And finally, the service or product is officially ready and deployed. So when you look at the diagram, you see that we achieve the value and the result only end of the project. So waterfall model has a strong emphasis on planning and specifications of the developments, which takes up to 40% of the project time and the budget. Activities on waterfall projects need to be in the exact order, and next activities can only start when the previous one ends. Therefore, the planning is the most important thing on the waterfall projects. If you don't plan correctly, a phase will be late and will push to every other subsequent phase, and that causes delay on the deadlines of the project. But it is also very tricky in software development, so you can never be 100% sure how much time you will need on something or how much time you will spend debugging. And on the other hand, because waterfall method tends to be slowly, costly, and inflexible for changes, often by the time of the final product releases, the technology was already different or customer requirements had already changed. So in many cases, because its inability to adjust the changes due to changed market requirements, often the results became a huge waste of resources, and eventually the projects are failed. So due to all this frustration, a new project methodology is required that develops software solutions more easily and effectively, which brings us to Agile methodology. Agile was formally launched in 2001, and this project management is an iterative approach to focuses on breaking down large projects into more manageable tasks, which are completed in short iterations throughout the project life cycle. It involves constant collaboration with stakeholders and prioritize the tasks according to their requirements. And it also has continuous improvement at every stage. Teams use the agile methodology are able to complete the work faster and adapt to changing project requirements and optimize their workflows. So when we look at the diagram, it is obvious to see that the implementation parts are separated into small pieces, and each piece has its own analyze, design, testing, and deployment processes. And end of each iteration, we achieve an value. Okay, look at the key components in Agile project management. The first one is the user stories, which are simple description of the user requirements. Then the sprints are the short iteration or time interval where the team works on the user stories. It usually takes between 1 to 3 weeks to complete. Once the sprint is over, you review the product and to see what is working or not. And you can also do adjustments and begin another sprint to improve the product or service. The idea is continuously repeat these sprints until your product feature is ready. And there is daily stand-up meetings, most likely under the 10 minutes, and also known daily scrum meetings. So it is a great way to ensure that everyone is on track and informed. So these daily interactions are known as stand-up because the participants are required to share their updates and also keep the meetings short and to the point. An agile board also helps your team to track progress of your project. Then the backlog is the place where you store the user stories. And during the sprint planning, stories in the backlog are moved into the sprint to be completed during the iteration. There are also different roles as product owners, scrum masters, or stakeholder, but they are not the focus of this training right now. So right now we have an overview regarding the agile and waterfall methodologies. But let's have a very basic sample and to get better understanding the differences between them. So just think about that. We have a project that your family asked. So if you have free time and would paint the walls of the living room. So you accepted to help them and you even asked help from some of your friends. But before you started to implement your project, you thought that maybe you would lead this small project with a waterfall approach. First, you came together with family members and started to understand their requirements as which color they want, which type of material they would prefer, if they have any brand in their mind, or do they want just single color for all walls, or do they want some kind of combination of different colors in the room. So after this big upfront analyzing and planning processes, you decided the color, material, style and etc. Then next day you started to paint with your friends and after for a while you completed all walls in the room. Then you check and tested all pieces on the wall. For example, if the color seems fine, you just some kind of tested your results or your implemented activities. Then afterwards, the wall are dry. Then you invited your family members and presented them the living room. They were quite happy that you helped them, but they were not sure if that color is really fit their decoration. Because they bought a new couch and carpet and actually more brighter walls would be better fit with this combination. It was not very satisfied for you because you already completed the whole room and job is finalized. And during this time, the requirements of your families change also. And now in order to implement these changes, you need to turn back to beginning. Then you decided to give a second try, but now you followed a different approach. You want to use agile methodology, so you decided to break down the tasks into different iterations. So each requirement is turned into user stories. So for example, for each wall in the living room, we have created one single user story, and now we will implement this single user story in one sprint. But it is not also limited to one single user story. You can add more according to your capacity. You analyzed the requirements and planned your activities, and as next step, you just painted with your friends one wall and tested if everything seems fine, and invited family members to present the first results in order to get their feedback. They seemed quite happy about the new color and they recommended maybe a wallpaper additionally would also be nice. So now we have a new requirement in the middle of the project. But it doesn't a problem in agile approaches because we have a continuous improvement at every stage. Then we have created a new user story for decoration of wallpaper and put into our backlog. Then in next sprint, according to prioritization of our customer, which is in here, it is the family members, we can start the user story decoration of the wallpaper on the one side of the wall. But as mentioned that we are not limited to one user story, according to our capacity, we could even add more. For example, we can even start to paint another wall in parallel. So you see that in agile methodology, without waiting the all rooms painted or all results are implemented, we just divided tasks into small pieces. And finalizing of each task, end of each iteration, we just had a feedback session with our customer and implement changes during the ongoing project implementation. So therefore, we are always aligned with our customer and we are very open to adapt changes flexibly. So I hope that very simple example would give you an idea about the differences of two approaches. Now think about why agile methodology is also preferred project management approach for development of data warehouse projects with Data Vault. The popularity of Data Vault model is based on three key characteristics that result of its stable structure, as flexibility, loading efficiency, and auditability. In respect to flexibility, the Data Vault model is easily adaptable and extendable. Changes in the source systems can easily be reflected in the Data Vault model with no or only little updates to existing tables. For example, addition of an attribute can be reflected as a new satellite, or such as adding new entity or relationship, or even an entire source system. It is sufficient to add new tables to the Data Vault model. It is possible to start with relatively small Data Vault model and extend this model by adding more hubs and links to create a larger one. So, as a result of it, data model created using the Data Vault can scale according to the requirements of organization flexibly. When it comes to loading data into data warehouse, Data Vault allows for parallelization because the modeling approach has fewer points where the data needs to be synchronized, and this results in faster data loading processes. A key benefit, especially for organizations dealing with very large data volumes and those handling the real-time or near real-time data inserts. So all these structural benefits of Data Vault supports an agile approach in which one use case is implemented after the other, or new business objects, relationships, and attributes are added. And you see that with Data Vault modeling approach, we don't need an upfront planning or design phases for a data warehouse implementation. It provides a flexible way to incrementally build out the model by allowing users to use the completed part of the model while the development team is working on the next iteration in parallel. Therefore, Agile project management is very aligned with the concepts behind the Data Vault. Thank you for listening.